You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast for our second show of the 2023 Cricket World Cup. It was a good day. It was a good day in the tournament as Pakistan survived a big scare from the Netherlands. I'm Jack Hope, and I'm here with Saud Shakheel to talk through things from the Pakistan point of view. Welcome to the show, first-time guest. I hope you're doing well. Did you enjoy the cricket?
I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I think it was a very uncomfortable game to watch. Uncomfortable from what time I had to wake up to watch it, and then the context of the batting, and then it's a working day here in the US. Lots going on the side as well. So yeah, I'd say glad to get it out of the way.
What was it? A 4:30 start for you guys over there to watch the first overs?
I'm in Chicago, so it's actually 3:30 a.m. But yeah. And I was trying to go to sleep. I was trying to catch some sleep in the middle for maybe 45 minutes. Like when they were 3 down, I was like, okay, things are getting comfortable. Let me just catch some sleep. But every time I would try, a wicket would fall. And by the end of it, I had lost sleep because of the sheer horror of the situation. So just the life of a Pakistan, another day in the life of a Pakistani fan.
It was. I thought it was great from Pakistan. They played a lot of the hits. They didn't play the main hit, which was losing to a minnow, but we did have sort of unnecessary collapse. We had the comedy run out. We had some great pace bowling, and we even had a dropped catch at one point as well, just for old time's sake. But it was in the end a relatively comfortable win. If you're catching up on the cricket, I'll quickly run through a match summary. There was some early success for the Netherlands as they had Pakistan in disarray at one point, 3 wickets down, before Saud Shakheel and Rizwan steadied the ship, guiding Pakistan to what looked like a fairly promising situation. The Netherlands, though, they've got a sort of secret weapon, or maybe not so secret weapon, in big Bas de Leede, who flipped things again, and Pakistan ended up being bowled out for 286, which kind of strangely was probably a total that both sides were happy with. I think credit to Netherlands for what they did, and also a decent recovery from Pakistan. In response, the Netherlands did have moments where they threatened to make a real game of it, as Bas de Leede and Singh had a pretty hefty partnership at one point. But ultimately, the Pakistan bowlers were just a bit too quick, a bit too straight, and a bit too skillful for the Netherlands, as they kind of semi-cruised to an 81-run victory. It's a way to get your World Cup off to a start. What do you think? Let's have the Pakistan angle first. Is this what you were expecting from the team going into the tournament? Obviously, the Asia Cup maybe didn't go to plan. But it is points on the board. Are you happy? Are you a little bit confused? I'm not sure how I would grade the performance, so I'd be interested in your perspective.
I think I'm mostly happy. This is always going to be a very uncomfortable game in a lot of ways. Like in the last T20 World Cup, for example, Pakistan lost to Zimbabwe. So this is not unheard of. In 2007, we lost to Ireland. So these games, I would say even the players are quite wary of these type of games. But there's some big questions coming in. Pakistan still sort of hasn't mentally recovered from the loss of Naseem Shah. So in many ways, it's a bowling attack that is trying to find its feet as a combination. The other thing is we honestly haven't played that much one-day cricket. I think recently in the Asia Cup apart, people like Shadab and Nawaz are predominantly T20 bowlers. Even Shaheen, for that matter, they bowl a lot more in T20 cricket, a lot less in the longer format. So you'll find that this is why this World Cup is unique, because there's not enough one-day cricket happening. There's a lot of finding your feet and finding your role in this tournament as we go. So every game they're going to sort of we're going to find new things about the team. It's not like this is a settled one-day combination. So from that perspective, I'm pretty relieved that we won pretty comfortably. And from a bowling standpoint, I think Haris was doing well after a disaster in the warm-up game, but he was just bowling within himself in the warm-up game. You can see the gas was up today. Hassan Ali is the big relief. He has, honestly, we all thought it was a huge gamble to take. but it seems to be paying off. And not only with the new ball, he came back with the old ball. And the big factor is reverse swing, because when reverse swing starts to show up in Pakistan bowling innings, it means there will be a force to reckon with, because nobody does it better than Pakistan in world cricket. And if it's happening, you could see it, visibly see when Hassan was bowling, and I think Shaheen was bowling as well. When the ball starts to tail in, it just adds a whole new element to the middle overs, which is basically Pakistan's Achilles heel in a lot of ways. Batting, sorry, I'm rambling, but from a batting standpoint, I'd say Fakhar Zaman is the big unanswered question, and I would think that it would probably give him a couple of more games. But that's the question. He is the X factor. He has to fire for Pakistan to have a good World Cup. I mean, we can win against minnows, but we can't beat the top teams without Fakhar firing. But apart from that, the other guys, I think everybody chipped in. So 280 was, I think 280 is what we will usually get if Fakhar doesn't fire. I think that's the way I look at it.
That's fair enough. I mean, obviously, no runs from Babar as well today, which was probably a little bit of a difference maker. But the major disaster was, I guess, averted by Rizwan and Saud Shakheel. Am I right in saying Saud Shakheel was offered a Category C contract by the Pakistan Cricket Board, which seems like unjust recompense for his last year? And I'd not seen a lot of him in one-day cricket, but he looked pretty good as well, I thought, as part of that recovery.
Yes.
Go on.
Now, say the contracts was a messed up situation. So very arbitrary, like guys, there's a leg spinner, Babar Azam, who's sort of has been bowling really well. He's like our leading test match spinner. I don't think he even got a contract at all. So it's it's quite messy. Like when Inzamam gets involved in something, I think you can be safe to assume it's not going to be the most well thought out process.
I have to say, on this podcast, we do quite enjoy watching Pakistan cricket administration from afar, because the plot twists, they're probably only really rivaled by Bangladesh, maybe Afghanistan in world cricket. And I
mean, I'd say, just to play devil's advocate, the way India is running this World Cup is probably the biggest embarrassment there is out there. I mean, watching the empty stands, watching the fact that there's no foreign tourists who are actually getting visas or being able to travel to India, it's not even a priority. Like some days the games show up with like they're fully booked, then you find the grounds are empty, then you suddenly see that those matches have tickets available. I would say that the biggest representation of incompetence right now is probably the BCCI, who are resting on the fact that they have a huge market, but the way that they are running the game and the way they are running the global game into the ground, I think that is probably the most laughable administration of cricket right now.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily argue with that, I don't think. I thought it was a little bit of a shame as well for what is two sides World Cup opener for the ground to be relatively sparsely populated. I know it's not Netherlands v Pakistan's unlikely to sell out many stadiums, but it did seem fairly empty early on, and then I think the less said.
Pakistan has pretty big, sort of a pretty big fan base in where they're playing right now. So I mean, it'll be different if they were playing like Ahmedabad, but like in Hyderabad, there's a pretty huge fan base out there. You can see it from the reception that they got. You can see it from social media as well. So I would say with some better marketing, probably could have got more fans in. Even to cheer against Pakistan, I would have expected that more people would show up. But that didn't quite happen. And it speaks to a very, very flawed ticketing system. And I don't know enough about this, but that's what I've been told by people who work in cricket administration.
I mean, the anecdotes I've heard, mainly from people on the buying side, have been similar. I know quite a few people who've gone to India for the tournament from the cricket team I play in here, and have had not an awful lot of success picking up tickets for any of the games. So to then see that there is actually nobody at the match is probably slightly infuriating. Back to the cricket, because we didn't really touch upon Netherlands too much. But they, I thought, came out of the game with a fair amount of credit for an 81-run loss. I think at various points in the match, that was a closer game of cricket than it looked, and it took, as you said, sort of the skill and the reverse swing of the Pakistani pacers to close the book on it. But there must have been some nerves during that Bas de Leede and Vikramjit Singh partnership, sort of around the 15-20 over mark.
Yes, I think so. There's something interesting. So, an Indian friend of mine said that when they were playing against Pakistan, if they got 260 runs against us, more often than not, they were comfortable that they would win the game. I kind of felt like that in today's game. Like once we got about like 260, 270, it was like you have. It's like in the back of your mind, you kind of know, based on like past history and based on like what your bowling skills are. So I kind of knew like one wicket and then sort of the pins will fall. But it was uncomfortable, and it was like there's a lot of paranoia right now with Pakistan cricket, and like there's a lot of unknowns because again it goes back to the same thing. Like Shadab has not been bowling particularly well. Nawaz has suddenly completely lost the plot over the last few months. The fast bowlers are like injury prone. Hassan is back. There's so many unknowns that's what was causing the anxiety. If this was like a fully baked Pakistani attack, like if we were playing this game with this bowling rhythm that we saw today, I would have no concerns defending 280 again, at least against Netherlands. So that's why today's game is a huge relief, because for me as a fan at least, I get back that mental security that okay, if the dew is not falling, I know that we have the resources to be able to defend anything like upwards of 275, 280.
Yeah. I mean, you can see that attack coming together as well. I'd kind of agree on the spinners that they sort of do go through the motions a little bit, and I had a question about that, or that's more of a tactical question, I think, as well. And that basically comes down to so Babar Azam brings back the pacers when the game. I wouldn't say getting away from Pakistan. I think they had it more or less in control, but there was a scenario at one point where Bas de Leede got a century, and then who knows what happens in that after that. He brings back the pacers, and it does kind of wrap up the game. From watching it, having not seen Pakistan play a lot of ODI cricket recently, I think the question is that good captaincy from Babar Azam, or is that really the weapon that Pakistan have? Is that what we're going to see them do in the 8 further group matches and potentially the knockouts, or is there some bite from the spinners, and actually it was just good tactics from Babar to recognise that Netherlands probably weren't up to Harris Rauf today?
I think Babar had a better day today compared to what he's renowned for in captaincy. I think the bowling changes were better, like starting with Iftikhar around like the 11th over. I think that was a good strategy. I can't really fully speak to Babar's captaincy unless we see some tighter games. I think he's comfortable when there's more runs to play with. What you would see is the tighter the game gets, that's when Babar's captaincy generally falls apart. And that's sort of why he struggles in T20 cricket as well, because like it's fast-paced, the margin of runs are not that much, and you have like 17, 18 comes into question. With something like that's one-day cricket probably suits Babar's captaincy a little bit more because there's more room to make mistakes. So you can try someone for an over and say pace. I would say that reverse swing. I'd come back to this. That you could see that there was an active effort to get the ball ready for reverse swing. I think, and once that happens, that's always going to be the weapon that they will resort to in the middle overs. Like everything goes wrong, they're gonna go back to Shaheen or Haris. I actually thought that Hassan Ali was not going to be a weapon in the middle overs, like at least in the later overs, but based on what I saw today, I think he's sort of, that was the most heartening thing for me as a fan. Like Hassan is the biggest plus that I take away from this game. Like I know Saud Shakheel played superbly, but Hassan Ali bowling well, it's also a huge pain point right now.
Yeah. Final thing I'd like to say on this game is basically to commend Bas de Leede again. 4 wickets and 50 runs for him. The first guy in ODI cricket history to do that 2 matches in a row. I think that's a slightly contrived stat, but it does sort of show how important he is for the Netherlands. And I thought he played a really, really classy innings after his spell as well. If we're looking forward to the rest of the tournament, just to wrap up this game, what did we learn from the 2 teams? Pakistan, they're going to be pursuing, I think, the semi-finals. Does this tell us that they're on course for that? And from the Netherlands' point of view, did they show enough today to make you think that they could pick up a victory, which probably is realistically what they're aiming to pick up, is a win over the next 8 matches?
Yeah, I haven't spoken about Netherlands enough, but yes, I thought they bowled superbly today. Like, I thought that they used the pitch really well. I think that they were very smart. I think they've got some Kiwis and South African players in their lineup, and it shows that, like, they're a little prickly as well. Like, they were picking some fights with Rauf at the end. So they've got some spunk in them, I think, which is pretty interesting. So I would not be surprised at all if they win at least 2 games in this World Cup. Like, they can very easily catch a South African team napping again, because South Africa is going to be panicky after, like, the last T20 World Cup. They will be wary of the Netherlands. The Netherlands will believe against them, and then they're playing Afghanistan, they're playing Sri Lanka. Like, I would expect that they would take one of those games. Like, I think the way that they play, obviously they need somebody to support the leader. So Ackerman is supposedly someone who has a lot of, like, domestic runs under his belt. So they've got some decent experience there. But yeah, the difficult thing for them is, like, dealing with things like reverse swing. That's probably not something that you deal with in associate cricket. So that's probably what it goes a notch above when you play a World Cup. Those are things that you have to sort of learn on the fly. But yeah, from a Pakistani standpoint, obviously semi-finals is the immediate thing to focus on is the Sri Lanka game, which Sri Lanka is interesting because we've never lost to Sri Lanka in a World Cup. So I always feel comfortable with that sort of history in mind. The same problem we have with India, where we never win with them, against New Zealand and against Sri Lanka, and off late against South Africa as well. We've had a very stellar record in World Cups, both T20s and one-dayers. So that always puts me in a good mood when I'm looking forward to those games. But the India game is probably what I think the immediate next step is. Semi-finals, I think, is a realistic target. But Fakhar Zaman has to pick up his slack. Without him, Pakistan will have to go into a backup strategy in which they're going to have 2 anchors at the top of the order, and that will that's a very difficult strategy to build a World Cup win.